Welcome to the Fireside Gathering with the authors of I Don't Become Selfish, I Became Harder to Manipulate, sharing more of their experiences and wisdoms learned, hosted by Sara Jane. You can go to vocalreiki.com/fireside gathering to find all the authors and where you can purchase the book. Do enjoy.
Welcome to the Fireside Gathering with the authors of I Didn't Become Selfish, I Became Harder to Manipulate. I'm Sara Jane, the lead author, and I am delighted for this program, or conversation, I should say, to be joined by Anthony Wilson. Anthony, hi, thank you for joining us. And Nicole Peterhans. Nicole, thank
Hi,
you
everyone.
so much for
Thanks for
joining
having
us.
me, Sara.
My pleasure. Okay, Nicole, your chapter 23, From Invisible to Visible, Losing Myself Under a Narcissistic Upbringing. Please share a little about yourself and why you chose to participate in this book.
My name is Nicole Peterhans. I'm originally from Switzerland. I live now in the United States. I've been in this country for almost 28 years now. Growing up in Switzerland, I grew up in a very mainstream middle class environment where I had a very dominating mom, and I didn't realize for a long time that she actually had narcissistic tendencies. I had no idea. And but for me, that just meant she crushed my spirit. Everything was criticized, everything was judged. There were a lot of rules, and if I didn't follow the rules, I would be reprimanded. And so there was very little room for myself to be myself and to follow my creativity and my spark. And I didn't really think much of it. I was trying to find the fault within myself. I thought it was me, not being able to follow direction, not being able, to listen properly, maybe saying the wrong things at the wrong times and stuff like that. So I really just blamed it all on me for the longest time. And then at one point in my early 20s, I had a short weekend before I started school again, and I took a trip to New York with a friend. That was my first time in the US, and it just was it blew my mind, the way I felt so free there. I felt like people were dressing, because I was always criticized how I was dressed, were behaving, were just doing their thing and just being, it just felt so free. And I'm like, wow, there's apparently there's a total different life that can be lived, free from your own limitations of the fears and insecurities. And that's probably the first time that I had a glimpse of, things can be different. And so down the road, I would travel a lot to the US and, spend vacations here, and eventually did emigrate here. And ever since, my husband and I, we used to live in Boulder, Colorado first, when I first moved here. And Boulder is a very spiritual place. And, to me, it was almost like the candy store of all things spiritual. All the religions are there and the healings, and you could do everything. And that was in the early 2000s when I came there, and I was fascinated. And so I took a Reiki class. That was kind of my first introduction into the healing world, and didn't stick with the Reiki though. Right after I learned my first healing modality, and from there it just took off. But through those exposures to this healing, I first took sessions with other people, with other healers for myself, but then also started working on myself, and I started realizing how much could be shifted. The first time I had a session, I thought, well, I might need another one, and then I'm good. And then, and then I realized, oh my gosh, there's more and there's more. And I'm still doing it, like more than 20 years later, I'm still having sessions. And over the course of the years, I saw the change happening. I saw how I was just shedding so many of these limitations and fears, especially the fears. I had so many fears that I was able to shed and release. And through that, just becoming myself. I mean, I would say a different person, but it was really, I was becoming myself. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to, why I felt honored that you asked me to participate. And I felt drawn to participating in this book because everyone can do that. This was not special to me, but this is like something everyone can go through this transformation. It's totally achievable, and it doesn't even hurt. You just it's really just a matter of just addressing those negative energies within you and releasing them, and then the change starting to happen. And I mean, for me, this was, I love it. I think this is amazing. This is such an amazing tool. And the results are amazing, from seeing how I live my life now, what I'm doing now, what I'm allowing myself to do. So that's what I wanted to share with the reader, that it's possible.
Thank you, Nicole. Anthony, your chapter is actually chapter 1, Following My Heart, Searching for My Truth in an Unaccepting Religion. Share a little about you and why you chose to share your story in the book.
Well, I resonated a lot with your book and with the topic of not allowing others to be able to manipulate us, and also having enough self-love and self-compassion to know that you're not being selfish when you are putting your values and your priorities first when it comes to living your life and doing the things that are important to you in life. And I resonated very strongly and hadn't thought about it in quite some time. But growing up as a Seventh-day Adventist young man in a family that was a wonderfully loving Christian family, but also somewhat fundamentalist and also very rigid in the belief system that you had to do things a certain way, you had to believe a certain way, and that there were severe and dire consequences from deviating from what was told to you as the only way to proceed forward in having a good, meaningful, holy, acceptable life. And it was hard to completely trust my teachers, my minister, my parents, all of those in authority, and also have this conflict of interest as I learned to love myself and to care for myself and to learn that something just didn't seem right, that I'm trying to honor other people's wishes, and I have to hide myself more and more as I go through that. And it took a long time, but I came out as being gay in college. And that was a very religious, very strict college. And all the way through until my senior year, I was this angel who was having no problems at following the rules because I wasn't really that interested in dating women and all the rules that they set. Not holding hands, not kissing, not touching, not any of that. I was following really well. But I was also realizing that what I did want was completely unattainable, and I wanted to go on a date with another guy, and to express myself in a way that was authentic. And so it finally came to me that being fake and suppressing authenticity was not a very good way to live, no matter what all the people in authority said. And it took a long time, and it took a lot of needing to seek out support from people who had walked that path before, and people who were supportive, and people who were open enough to say that there isn't only one way to walk your journey of your life, that there are different paths to walk the journey of your life and to get to the place of fully loving yourself, being fully authentic, and living the best possible life you can live. And that was my goal, was to live the best possible life I could live. And I figured that the only way I could do that was to fully trust in myself, fully trust in my intuition, in alignment with having very strong values of love and compassion and caring. And so I used the values that I got through my church as my guiding values. But my end result was different from theirs. And I feel good now that I do have strong values. I do have strong belief systems, and I have a strong spirituality. My spirituality is guiding me to live my life very differently than I was told I had to live it. And so I resonated a lot with what this book was about, because I think it's about allowing people to find their way on their own, on the path that works best for them, find their own journey by going within to their own hearts and seeking the truth through their own intuition, and knowing when you have solid values and solid self-love and self-respect, to be able to create boundaries that don't allow other people to take that away from you. And that will be your guiding light.
Seriously, listening to both of you and your story, that there is an element of crossover. There really is. And we haven't planned these programs as to who's going to sit together. We really haven't. And the universe is bringing you together beautifully, because it is about us having control over our own lives, not being controlled by others. As children, obviously, we have to listen to parents, grandparents, teachers. But for all of us, it's getting to that stage where it's realizing that we can, if we like, unlearn everything that we've been told about ourselves to find the true us beneath that. And that's really important. And there have been so many different experiences that people have gone through in this book. And I am so grateful to each and every one of you for sharing your stories. I really am, because it's been from parents, it's been from teachers, it's been from friends. It's everything, I think, has been covered. But I think for those people who are thinking about the book and whether it should be something for them, I think it's the feelings of how it's made us feel what has happened to us, more necessarily than the stories. The story itself doesn't resonate, but those feelings of, in some cases, of abandonment, of rejection, other cases of being sort of controlled and manipulated, other cases of bullying, and all of these type of things are in the book. And it's how those things have made us feel for us to actually get to that point to say, actually, I've had enough and it's time to be me. But it's that having that strength and that courage to actually say, I am going to find out who I am. And I'm going to step away. And the right people will keep loving us, and the people that can't cope with the boundaries, as you called them, sort of Anthony, they will slip away, because they will realize they cannot control and manipulate us anymore. So, and we aren't talking about us being selfish, but just true to ourselves. I am going to stay with you, Anthony, because you've chosen an additional topic of spiritually following the wisdom of your heart. So would you like to share a little of what you mean by that and how that feels to you?
I just saw a movie a couple of days ago, and it was a romance between two guys, and it ended up being so beautiful at the end. And what mattered most, despite all the obstacles that came up, was following love. And as I watched the relationship unfold on TV, felt within my own heart this love, this enthusiasm, this joy, that I could see this relationship developing into something absolutely beautiful, despite all the hardships and difficulties and obstacles that seemed like they were impenetrable. And I think that is a lot like spirituality for me. Is you follow your heart. You know deep in your heart what love is. You learn what love is. You learn what self-love is and self-compassion. And you follow that light because you have that light within you. And as you follow love and self-compassion, it comes to you as well, because what you put out often comes back to you. And how can I share that love and share that self-compassion so that I'm sharing compassion and love to others? I'm learning something. I'm working now or training as a grief educator. And sometimes that can be really hard because I sit down with people who are grieving and they're in so much pain and they've had so much loss. And sometimes that energy can come out onto me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, do I want to run away from this? Do I need to like sort of fill my cup somehow? But I'm learning that if I can tap into my own love and then share love and compassion rather than absorbing that energy, I'm pushing out love and compassion. And that makes all the difference because I can feel that I'm not as energy depleted anymore when I'm not sort of focusing my attention on what I'm getting from them, but I am pushing out this love and this compassion. And that, for me, is spirituality, is when we can tap into our inner light, into our inner wisdom, and into our inner love, and then share that love with others. And one of the other things that I also learned from I always have to bring up my late husband, who was an atheist, but who I found to be extremely spiritual, and who said on his dying bed, be kind to others, even if they don't deserve it.
Oh.
And that is showing love to other people, even when those people seem like they don't really deserve your love. But it's showing love, it's showing kindness, and showing compassion. And I think that is my modus operandi, or my way of showing my spirituality and my belief system that came out of that fundamental kind of religion, but then it's expanded so that I don't need to tell anybody how to live their life. I don't need to tell anybody what to do, but I can see authentic spirituality because of what they are doing and how they're doing it. Because if I don't see love, if I don't see compassion, and if I don't see them being kind to others, even if the others don't deserve it, that tells me, yeah, this may be faux spirituality, but it's not the real thing.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. Nicole, your
Well, you know,
thoughts?
you're talking about a subject that's very dear to my heart. I feel self-love is the foundation. I actually just wrote a book about that, so it's funny that this comes up too, but I do feel, I mean, love has such a high frequency, and when we open up our heart, we are able to receive and we are able to feel what's right for us and what's not right for us. And if we don't listen, if we deny, you know, even if it's hard, if we have to, you know, say no to something or leave a relationship, that's hard for a lot. It was hard for me too, you know, to kind of to oh sorry. Okay.
It's all right. Carry on.
Just to set these boundaries, you know, and our heart tells us where the boundaries have to be. But if we ignore it, it's self-betrayal and or self-abandonment or self-rejection. It can take on different forms, and I include this into the self-love. You know, for me, all these things are part of loving yourself, to fully accept yourself, or listen to yourself, to whatever you need, to whatever, you know, comes up for you, and stand up for yourself. And if we fully can listen to this and stand up for ourselves and honor that, that's when we connect with our most authentic persona, or who we truly are. And that's why I fully agree, you know, that the self-love is imperative. For me, it's imperative. It's the foundation, and it sets the foundation for every other relationship that we have. The way we treat ourselves, you know, what we allow ourselves is the foundation for what we let into our lives.
100%. The most important person for each of us to love, the person that should be the love of our life, is ourselves. And when we have that love for ourselves,
Yes.
we can bring more of that to others. And in respect to spirituality, I believe that spirituality goes way beyond religions. It has got a depth and a caring and a loving and an understanding that sadly is missing from probably every religion, but that spirituality is the way for each of us to go. So thank you, both of you, for that. Right, Nicole, we're going to stay with you because you've chosen From Survival to Soul-Fullness, Reclaiming My Inner Child Through Post-Traumatic Resilience. So share a little about
Yes,
what you
sure.
mean by that.
So, you know, when growing up, again, I grew up under a lot of pressure, and I had a lot of fears, I had a lot of insecurities, and I mean, back then I didn't know a lot about the inner child, but it was definitely very suppressed. But it was interesting, you know, when I was getting older, every now and then I would feel a spark, you know, or have like an inkling of let's do this, let's do that, you know, some kind of creative ideas. And now looking back, I know this was my inner child still speaking to me, you know, and I would not follow. A lot of time I wouldn't follow it because I was not, you know, it didn't, I was too afraid to do it, or too insecure to follow, or, you know, I didn't want to be seen. For a long time, I did not. I was so fearful. I didn't not want to be seen. You know, I was always hiding behind other people. I would not raise my hand in class, and all these things. I would not do a lot of things that I was interested in, again, because I was afraid I couldn't do it or wouldn't understand it. But through all this, I still always had this inkling, you know, these sparks, do this, do that. And I see this as this inner child who was resilient, was still pushing through those, through the darkness, really. And by releasing these fears, I was able to reconnect with these sparks and to reconnect with my inner child and eventually let it come out and acknowledge it and honor it, and following those voices, those nudges, that I was feeling. I mean, obviously, they were always different. Now I'm doing different things than I would have done when I was younger, but I've been doing things that, even writing a book, this is very new to me. I mean, if you would have even asked me last year, do you ever want to write a book? I would have said, no, I'm not an author, I'm not a writer, I don't want to write a book, And now I have the book that we did together, and now in the meantime I've written another one, and so I'm just like, I'm following this, even though at the beginning it might be a little scary, but I'm doing it because I'm excited about it. So I'm feeling this spark, and I connected with this resilience that my inner child had, that was always there, but that I neglected for a long time. And now I'm making this bridge and letting it live, letting it show itself and letting it come out. And that's what I call the post-traumatic resilience, to allow the growth, allow the change, and not be stuck in the wound or the trauma or the pain.
Thank you so much. Anthony, your thoughts?
Well, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
And no, I think for me, it's also being able to step back and start being able to develop something that we call awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we can be aware of our belief systems, it can change everything.
Mm-hmm.
We've been taught to believe so many different things in our lives. And we've often been taught those things by people who have been traumatized, or people who have, so many fears about so many things. And we take them on, and then we carry them as if they were ours,
Mm-hmm.
and as if they were truth. And a lot of the fears and a lot of the anxieties, a lot of the beliefs that we have are generated from fear, anxiety, trauma, and other things.
Mm-hmm.
And once we can stand back and look at our belief systems, then we can start making choices
Mm-hmm.
as to what we're going to believe and what we're not going to believe. And we get to navigate our lives the way that we choose to navigate our lives once we figure out that we have a choice, and that the beliefs that we have need to change. Because once we change our beliefs, then we can change our actions, and we can move forward in a positive way with complete understanding that we've had to change our belief systems in order to get to where we are now. And we may need to continue to adjust our beliefs with additional information that comes into our field of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's huge in moving us forward and helping us to become the persons that we truly wish to become, and to be our authentic selves.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you. Believing in ourselves is as important as loving ourselves. Trusting in ourselves. I work with the inner child, with people with their inner child, and by helping people to reconnect with their child, so that the child feels listened to, heard, loved, seen. Because how many of us, and I think there's probably the majority of people in the world at some stage as a child have felt that Why are they even there?
Mm-hmm.
They're not listened to, they're not heard, they
Mm-hmm.
don't feel loved and cared about. It's a feeling. And that's why when I said at the beginning, it's the feelings that people are going to understand. It's the feelings that people are going to resonate with. But listening to your two stories, they are totally different, but there are so many elements that are the same within them.
Mm-hmm.
You were squashed from being the people that you were, that you are. So I want to say thank you so much to each of you for participating in the book, for sharing with us in this program, in this conversation. And we are coming to a close. So I'm going to come back to you, Anthony. Anything that we haven't touched on that you'd just like to share, a final sort of a little something with people?
I I just think that once I was able to live my life authentically, a lot of the depression, a lot of the anxiety, a lot of the ways that I was living my life that felt overly burdensome and overwhelming sort of dropped away, and I began to really truly enjoy my life and feel empowered because I was living authentically. And I don't think that there's much in the world that's better than living your life authentically, and having that honesty of being who you are and living your life that way, be your guiding light. And so I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for readdressing that with myself through your book, because sometimes there's things that we know and we understand, but sometimes because we're human, we forget, and we just need to remember again. And this is another way of helping me to remember what's so important to me.
Thank you, Anthony.
I wanted to get back to what you said, Anthony, about awareness, or pick up on that. I think that's one of a very important first step to do, and to just really notice what you're thinking, what are your beliefs. It's really important. And just be, I did that myself, and I can recommend it. Just be very honest with yourself. Don't be afraid, because it's not yours. Through that process of what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you're noticing, take a step back and become the observer, and just see, is this true, what you're thinking? Is this coming from you? And then realizing, where does this come from? And it's often not us, it's often from our upbringing, from the caretakers. It's their wounds that they're projecting on us, and that is a first step to be able to separate and to let go, and to realize, this is not part of me. And so I would just encourage everyone who is, still dealing with these negative beliefs about self, or, thinking they're not good at this or that, or going through hard times. There's a way, and it's so possible to shift this and to let it go. And the sooner you make once you make the first step, there's no going back, and the rewards are amazing. That the transformation is always amazing, and it's so worth it. I've seen it with so many people, with so many clients who have done these first steps and started to listen and to see what's going on, what they're thinking, releasing it, taking a step back and just shifting it all. And it's so rewarding.
Yeah, 100%, because there is so much wisdom and knowledge from experience shared in this book. So folks, I hope you'll think about sort of maybe even getting the book. You'll find the information about all our guests on their page, a little bit about the topic, the the topics that we shared here, and about them, their bios. And if it feels right to connect with them, do. Their websites are there. Learn more about them. We're here to support people, and that's what we're here to do. And I am so grateful to both of you for sharing more of your wisdom here today. Take care, be safe, stay well.
Thank you so much.
Namaste, sweet souls.
Thank you very much.